Game 6 is a term in New York that's like Kleenex. You say Game 6 to anyone, they know exactly what you're talking about. The Mets in '86, there's no other definition of Game 6.
Can you believe this ball game at Shea?
Oh, brother.
Everyone was standing from like the 7th inning on.
Some people just had their heads down and their fingers crossed. You were on pins and needles.
When Dave Henderson hit that home run, I never heard Shea Stadium be so quiet.
And this one is gone.
You can feel everything in the stadium just deflate.
It was so quiet that I could hear the Red Sox dugout celebrate.
It's so quiet in New York, you can almost hear Boston.
You're in a room with 54,000 people, all feeling the same horrible feeling.
This is supposed to be our year. We won 108 games where we were dominant. Are we going to lose?
You get the 2 out, and I remember thinking, I can't watch this.
And the Mets are down to their last out.
You didn't want to give up, but, you know, the writing was on the wall.
I see on the Diamond Vision, it goes up, congratulations, Red Sox. I was sitting in the upper deck. My wife said to me, let's go home.
There's no way they can come back.
Base hit for Carter, and the Mets are still alive.
When you're thinking, okay, we have a puncher's chance. You know, someone could hit a home run, anything could happen.
Curveball, and that's going to be hit to center, base hit.
When the hit started coming, it was like, okay, there's still a chance. All you need is hope.
And that's going to be hit into center field, base hit. Here comes Carter to score.
Now the place is starting to really percolate.
You knew that something was possible. It might just happen. There was momentum.
And it's going to go to the backstop. Here comes Mitchell to score the tying run.
Once it was tied, now I was back. We're winning this game.
Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
It wasn't just happy high fives with my neighbors.
People are like, oh, ooh, kissing each other, going insane.
Jumping around and screaming and crying.
Shea Stadium was literally going up and down.
The place shook. I thought it was going to collapse.
They say a stadium rocks. This was the ultimate situation. It was euphoria like you never felt in your life.
Simply Amazin', the story of the 1986 New York Mets. In 1969, New Yorkers were treated to the Miracle Mets.
The Mets are the world champions.
The You Gotta Believe Mets reached a 7th game of the 1973 World Series, but fell just short. That disappointment was just the beginning for Mets fans as the franchise floundered their way through the rest of the 70s.
They used to call Shea Stadium Grant's Tomb, named after the general manager of the Mets.
In February and March, you actually believe you have a team. And then you see what they put on the field. I mean, just ridiculous.
There were 8,000 people in the stands. It was not a fun place to be.
It really tested Met fans. There were times you felt like you were a fan of a farm team.
People would come up to you and offer you tickets for free.
It got to the point where you just wanted to see the superstars from the other teams.
But the Mets boldly traded their own superstar, the franchise, Tom Seaver, a deal that fans wish they could forget.
Who was he traded for? Pat Zachary, Doug Flynn, Steve Henderson, and Dan Norman. What, are you kidding me?
The Mets hit rock bottom in 1979, finishing the season 35 games out of first place.
Being a Mets fan was rough. We wanted our team to be good, and we just had to wait.
As the decade of the 80s beckoned, the Mets appeared destined to continue their downward spiral until a pair of native New Yorkers came to the rescue.
The Mets got worse and worse. The fans really turned against us, and the attendance started plummeting. They were finally sold to a group led by Nelson Doubleday and Fred Wilpon.
You often want to buy things that are down, and hopefully you can build it up. From my point of view, there was passion, there was history. I loved the team, and I wanted to be involved in baseball.
Here comes Fred Wilpon, a local product. Everybody was really thrilled that he was taking over.
The first order of business was to bring in an astute baseball man who could lead the Mets out of their abyss.
They were so bad at that time. Just the challenge was so much fun that I couldn't say no.
I can't tell you how long it's going to take to win a pennant. I think we're going to win a pennant. If I didn't really feel that way, I wouldn't have taken the job in the first place.
The first draft that I had, I chose Darryl Strawberry.
So one day, I went to the ballpark in South Central Los Angeles to go and see this black Ted Williams, as so described by Sports Illustrated. He hits a home run in the first inning, a grand slam to the opposite field, and you immediately went, wow.
But with Strawberry still a few years away, the Mets continued to struggle, and trying to promote a team that lost nearly 100 games in 1980 proved to be just as futile.
In the early 80s, the Mets had an ad campaign, The Magic is Back.
And I'm listening to a game and I hear Magic Johnson, Magic, Magic Johnson, Magic, Magic hit, Magic hits, Magic hit. And it suddenly dawns on me, magic is a great word. The magic is back.
Shea Stadium, where you can show your kids what real heroes are all about. There's a magic coming back to Shea in the 1980 Mets.
It was mocked because it was, what magic, the magic of mediocrity.
There was no magic.
The tragic is back.
The magic is black.
Unless the magic was just supposed to be like a vanishing act.
Shea Stadium in 1980. The magic is back.
We didn't care about slogans. We just wanted to win.
In his quest to find that winning combination, Cashen uncovered a wealth of young talent. But it was his first major trade that truly changed the face of the franchise.
One day my phone rang and it was Joe McDonald, who was then working for the Cardinals. And he said to me, have you ever considered trading Neil Allen? If you would think about it, we would think about Keith Hernandez.
I remember the exact moment that it happened, because it was in June 15th, 1983.
Frank Cashen called on the phone and welcomed me aboard. The Mets were a perennial last-place team. I was not thrilled, to say the least.
Well, he always hated New York. And all I did was show him that there were so many things for him to do here. That's what I gave him a chance to understand.
I remember thinking, this is huge. Now we have a professional player, a guy that knows the game, a smart player.
What a play by Hernandez. The ball came up, they got him. Oh boy, what a play by Keith Hernandez.
He added legitimacy right away. He changed everybody's profile because he was the kind of player who could make people around him better. Not many people have that gift.
That, plus the emergence of Darryl Strawberry.
This one could be gone. It's going, gone, goodbye.
The arrival of 19-year-old pitching phenom Dwight Gooden in 1984.
Dwight Gooden was beautiful on the mound. The smile, the high leg kick, the youth.
And a new manager, Davey Johnson, who also arrived in '84.
A lot of fire in my belly. Wanted to take the Mets out of the last place and wanted to take them to a championship.
The Mets were on the cusp of big things.
We had a very good competitive ball club at that point. I felt that we needed one more hitter.
I'm watching TV one day and I hear Gary Carter comes to the Mets. And here I am jumping in my room. I'm like, we're starting to piece this thing together.
I hated Gary Carter when he was on the Expos. Hated him. He came to the Mets. I was in love with him.
Curve, well hit, deep to left field, way back and may go. Gone, a home run, Gary Carter wins it.
With a young ball club like the Mets had at the time, I thought, what a great opportunity, a chance to fulfill a dream, and that was to win a World Series.
There was no doubt on anybody's part, including all the other teams, that the New York Mets were becoming a really good ball club because of the talent they had.
When we came to spring training, we were very confident, and there was an aura in the clubhouse.
Davey understood the kind of players he had. They were players who would be very good bullies.
So I knew going in, and I said, not only are we going to win, we're going to dominate the league.
Now imagine saying that.
Cardinals just beat you the year before. You've never won as a team. How dare you say we're going to dominate you?
He took all that pressure away. He just said, hey, we're so good that if you just do your part, just run away. It really relaxed the entire team.
They clearly were the class of baseball in '86. You knew that going into the season. You know, anything less than a world championship would have been a disaster.
So blatantly brash, the Mets took the first week of the season to record a rap album celebrating their greatness.
During the very beginning of the season, they recorded this really crummy rap record called Let's Get Metsmerized.
My name is Hojo. I'm here to say our team is going all the way.
So early in the season, to be tooting your own horn like that.
I run, and then I dive. It's a wonder. I'm still alive.
Even the Chicago Bears, when they did the Super Bowl shuffle, it was after they won something.
The Mets silenced all skeptics with 11 straight wins to end April, including a thrashing of their arch rivals.
We knew that we'd come close the year before and that this year was going to be the year that we actually claimed the division. It was late in the game, and we were down 2.
2-2 to Howard Johnson. The Mets need a long ball. They might have it. This ball is out of here, and this game is tied. Oh, my goodness.
We go on to win that game, and it just kind of separated the two teams going in different directions.
Not running, and the curveball, throw to first, out at first base.
It was nice to show them what happened last year isn't going to happen again.
Ground ball hit hard, stabbed, great play by Backman, to second for 1, first double play, the game is over. The Mets have won the ball game.
4 straight, it's over, you guys are gone, and if you remember, the Cardinals were like,
My favorite part of that season happened after that game. We were on the elevator, myself and Wally Backman. The door starts to close, and as it does, Ricky Horton walks by, the old lefty for the Cardinals, and Wally grabs the door. He says, "Don't let us get too far ahead."
But that's exactly what the Mets did. Gaining confidence from their demolition of the Cardinals, the Mets dominated with their in-your-face style.
By the first week of May, everybody knew how good they were. And the Mets took delight in rubbing that in on other teams in the league.
We've never seen this before. Players were coming out of the dugout and taking curtain calls.
The fans started chanting and cheering and wanted guys to come out of the dugout and show themselves.
The Mets gloried in their glory.
Lee 2-0 delivered to Teufel, swung on, that's the ball game. Into deep left field, that ball is gone. A grand slam home run.
We won a lot of games from the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, and when you do that, you tick off a lot of people.
And the New York Mets win it 8-4.
And we did that with a lot of style and a lot of charisma.
Ground ball to Gooden, to home, to first. Dwight Gooden with a 1-2-3 double play to end the ball game.
I'll tell you, the opposing teams hated it.
I never like coming in here to Shea. It ain't personal. Just not my cup of tea.
The Mets were a team that nobody liked. I kind of thought they were just a bunch of dirt dogs.
We had an arrogance about us. I mean, in St. Louis, they call us pond scum.
There's a fine line between arrogance and self-confidence. The Mets were a little over the line to suit my taste.
The Mets were everything that most people hate about New York. It's what out-of-towners dislike about people who live in this city. Loud, obnoxious, impatient, rude.
My favorite player on the team is Darryl Strawberry. We got the same haircut.
We knew other cities hated us, and we loved it.
My claim to fame still is I was voted 3 times the most hated player.
Lenny Dykstra.
They really thought we were a bunch of scums.
I love that.
The '86 Mets were one obnoxious team. There's no question about that. But, you know, New York's an obnoxious place sometimes.
Mets 86. Exciting, thrilling, awesome. Let's take a look.
You said, okay, speed, action, and they transformed into like music video stars. And it was instant and it was obvious and it was like, wow. Every once in a while, a group of people get together just by chance or by design or for whatever reason, and magic happens.
Call it charisma, cockiness, or just plain chutzpah. This team found just about every way possible to celebrate itself.
shoot it to show that there's more to these guys than just baseball players. And I think to that level, we were very successful, and we tried to accomplish that.
They were in showbiz, and they knew it.
The one thing you want to do whenever you look for someone to endorse a product is you want someone who's a winner, and you want someone who the fans look up to. And these guys were winning, and yeah, there was a bit of a swagger. They owned the biggest city in the world. They owned New York.
It was just ultimate pop culture. These guys were just off the hook.
Let's go, Mets! Go!
Wild days on the big board have actually become commonplace lately. Today was another frantic session.
The 80s is now known as the decade of excess. And nowhere was its decadence more apparent than on Wall Street, where insider trading became a household term.
There was a movie called Wall Street where Michael Douglas says in the movie, greed is good, which is like contrary to anything that children are taught when growing up. But this was symbolic of the decade.
We were in that time of exuberance. I think the Mets were just doing what we were all doing. The Mets were partying.
You can't expect the players to go back and play tiddlywinks or dominoes or call mom at home after a ball game. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen.
You have to remember what the Mets were doing was a backdrop against what everybody was doing, especially in New York. It was an era of excess.
Wall Street was making new highs, but the people were making new lows. They called themselves kings of the universe. They smoked $25 cigars. They washed it down with $300 bottles of champagne right from the bottle walking in the street.
The Mets did most of their partying a bit more covertly, but nonetheless did their partying. They often congregated in Port Washington, out on Long Island.
One night we made up this drink called Nervous Breakdown. The guys were drinking it, one pitcher after another. Guys were feeling the pinch the following day. So I'm watching the game on television with my kids, and the announcer said that Darryl Strawberry has a 24-hour virus, not going to be able to play today. So I'm looking at Darryl in the dugout, and he's not able to walk. Anyway, he comes out of the dugout, walks up as a pinch hitter, first swing, boom.
Going, gone, a home run!
That was the Mets. They were amazing.
We weren't perfect.
They really wanted a lot of milk drinkers, and unfortunately, they just didn't get milk drinkers. You got a lot of crazy guys, that you put together, like Animal House.
I didn't think that we partied any more than any other team I played on. I mean, in St. Louis, my goodness, they force-fed us Budweiser. It was owned by Anheuser-Busch.
The New York Mets were sort of like a microcosm of the rest of the country. Nancy Reagan was saying, say no to drugs. And the Mets and everybody else in America was saying to Nancy Reagan, no to you.
There were telephone calls from anonymous sources of people who had observed Goodens dealing with drugs in a parking lot in Manhattan.
It always starts with rumors, and unfortunately, very often the rumors are true.
This was the pre-Len Bias drug days. Nobody knew that cocaine could kill you.
Cocaine was snorted right off your table. You didn't even go into a men's room or something to do that.
The policy of management was these are grown men, and they're holding up their end of the bargain by winning.
And whatever transpired off the field was nobody's business, really.
Davey was a player's manager, and he understood a lot of that because he was on teams like that. They were very talented, and they were loose.
The pressure of playing in New York, there needed to be a release from all that. Some guys handled it different than others, but getting in trouble was kind of our MO that year.
A bunch of Mets had gotten into a brawl in a bar in Houston, and some of them had got arrested.
We had some instances which we're not proud of.
I don't think it was really important to Met fans. It had a little bit of that Bronx Zoo type feeling to it, but as long as we were winning.
Here's a drive off Mazzilli's bat. We're looking at a tie game, perhaps. Gone!
Let them go out and have a good time. That's what we thought.
With all of their dysfunction, with all of their issues, with all of the concerns, they still continued to win. And they were just the most surreal, interesting team of characters you can imagine.
Remember the old Mets song from decades ago? Meet the Mets, step right up and greet the Mets.
Met fans are the children of Brooklyn Dodger fans.
The Yankees are white collar and the Mets are blue collar.
He was a working man, a taxi driver.
East side, west side, all around the town.
Met fans, it didn't belong to clubs.
It's the NYMETS Mets, and I can't remember the last line.
Their club was the Mets.
Today's game is completely sold out.
You look out on the field, and it's not Joel Youngblood in right field. It's Darryl Strawberry. Dave Kingman's not at first. It's Keith Hernandez. Ron Hodges isn't catching. It's Gary Carter. There's talent all over the place, real talent.
When White couldn't pitch,
Breaking ball, strike three!
everybody ran into a TV.
The entire Met team, it felt like, was on a first-name basis with New York. You had Mookie and Nails and Mex and Kid and Straw and Doc.
You can understand how anybody would have this guy as their favorite player or that guy as their favorite player.
Dykstra, with a dirty uniform, was really the symbol of that team.
Hernandez, to me, was the heart of the team.
I think that the team was personified by Wally Backman.
He would eat dirt just to get on base.
That kind of trickled down to all the players.
There wasn't anybody like the Yankees going, I don't feel accepted here. I'm not a true Yankee. They were men. And that's how I look at that team. There wasn't a wuss on that team. And that's what everybody in New York wants to be. They want to be men.
And we're going to come in and we're going to just rip your heart out.
It didn't take much to set other teams off. And we were one that didn't take many things sitting down.
We definitely wasn't taking any crap.
We fought, and the more we fought, the more we were together.
4 bench-clearing brawls. 4 in one season. That must be some sort of a record.
Pitch is swung on and missed. The throw to third base is not in time as Davis steals third, and Knight in a fight with Davis. Knight hits him with a right cross, and here they come. Both benches ebbing as we see fights breaking out around.
We were a very closely knit team. We stood up for each other.
As their exploits kind of piled up, the city just loved them more and more because everybody kind of likes a bad boy, and this was a team full of bad boys.
We were a very mean team.
And Kevin Mitchell, and I'll tell you, he can go. Oh, boy.
And I loved it.
We were a fighting team. That's why we were good late in the game. That's why we were good for the long haul.
They knew that this was the type of town that would rally around a team that was smart, which was aggressive, and which was good.
The foundation of the team was undoubtedly the collection of arms the Mets had on the mound.
We had like the best pitching staff with Darling and Doc, Bobby Ojeda, and Sid.
Oh, that rising fastball got him.
And then we had Jesse and Roger. So pretty tough to get past that lineup and pitchers. Because you know every day when you went out, you had a chance to win.
Darling is coming to the wire like a thoroughbred. He struck out the side.
That team was so good that sometimes it seemed that they would sleep through the first half a dozen innings and suddenly become awake.
Well hit left field. This ball is out of here, and this ball game is over, and I don't believe it.
This team never felt that it could lose a game.
Templeton's coming around to score. Flannery to second. The throw. Out at home. He's out at home. The throw to third. Out at third. The Mets win it 6-5. What a double play. Just your routine double play.
Davey was right. The Mets did dominate, making it official on September 17th.
It's party time at Shea as 50,000 fans are generating their own electricity. They have been delighted by the play of their ball club, and they are ready to celebrate. 13 years of waiting. Ground ball to second. Backman to Hernandez. The inevitable has finally become a reality.
They've been waiting 13 years, and now that it's happening.
And you deserve some champagne.
I think I do too.
Houston's Astrodome saw the start of the Mets' quest for their first pennant in 13 years. Their first 3 wins of the series mirrored their season-long formula for 108 wins. First, great starting pitching. Then, late-inning dramatics at Shea Stadium.
And a high fly ball hit the right field. It is fairly deep by the wall. He did it! It's a home run! A home run! The Mets win the ball game. Dan Dykstra hit a home run. This ball game is over.
The Mets created walk-off dramatics in Game 5 as well, this time courtesy of Gary Carter.
1 out. 1-1 tie. Charlie Teufel and Gary Carter dueling here. Up the middle, base hit. Backman turns third. Hatcher's throw, no play. And the Mets win in 12, 2-1.
Just as the Mets' wins were coming in typical fashion, so too were those of the Astros.
I had some concerns going into that series because they had some pitching. And pitching stops good hitting.
Houston's Mike Scott was proving that prophecy to a T, striking out 14 Mets in a Game 1 shutout, then tossing a 3-hitter in Game 4. He was torturing the Mets both physically and mentally.
Mike Scott was just unhittable. I just know that he had to have done something to the ball. He had to have doctored it.
We had a bucket full of balls that were scuffed all in the same mark exactly, same spot.
Whether he did or he didn't, I could tell you he was impossible to hit during that time.
Swing and a miss.
The last thing in the world that we wanted was to face Mike Scott in Game 7.
But that seemed inevitable, as Houston's Bob Nepper held a 3-0 lead into the 9th inning of Game 6. But just as they had done all season, the Mets rallied late.
Dykstra pumping around second, heading for third. He'll stand at third with a triple.
That was big. When Lenny gets that hit and everything just starts to roll.
And a soft line drive to second, base hit. Mookie will score. Fly ball, well hit to right center field. Hernandez will score. Tie ball game.
Roger McDowell's 5 innings of scoreless, 1-hit relief was helping turn this game into one for the ages. A game that was gripping New York City.
No one, and I mean no one, left the city that day.
The city stopped.
The city was captivated.
Cop cars actually had people around them because they were listening to the game.
Every now and then, you'd hear from down the mall, you know, whoa!
The pitch on the way, and a line drive base hit. Going into right field, the Mets have taken the lead.
And when the Mets drew to within 1 out of their pennant, confidence reigned supreme, as the Astros' last chance was late-hitting Billy Hatcher.
High in the air, toward the corner, curving, it is home run!
I was on the way home. We pulled over on the side to listen to the game when Hatcher hit that home run. It was like traffic stopped.
This can't be. They tied the game. When is this going to end?
The immense pressure of the game, coupled with the unhittable Mike Scott looming for Game 7, was unbearable.
I remember really being sick, thinking if this doesn't end and you have to face him again, we're not having this discussion.
Line drive, base hit to right field.
And then the Mets score 3 runs in the 16th inning. Now it's in the bag. I mean, a 3-run lead in extra innings, and what do? They give up 2 more in the bottom of that inning.
The gritty Astros drew to within 7-6, and with 2 out, would have the tying run on second base with their hottest hitter, Kevin Bass, at the plate.
The dome was packed to the gills with people, and it was very loud. And I looked at Jesse from first base, and I could see he was tired. I could see he was a little bit rattled.
3-2. What will he do?
I knew that Kevin Bass was a good fastball hitter.
Couldn't hit a down breaking ball, and Jesse had a very sharp down slider.
And I wasn't going to throw him anything but breaking balls.
And I just said, if you throw another fastball, we're going to fight.
They're saying, Jesse, you got nothing left. You know, you're going to have to throw a breaking ball. And I'm like, you don't have to tell me. I know that.
The pitch on the way. Swing and a miss. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. Struck him out. The Mets have won it. They're in the World Series.
When Jesse flung that glove up in the air, it was, thank God this is over.
Game 6 is just extraordinary. It's almost off the charts extraordinary.
That was a ball game for the ages.
It was one of those games that they say that the script came from Hollywood or something.
And perhaps the greatest post-game celebration ever, most representative of this World Series team of excess.
It was an exciting plane ride, to say the least.
On a scale of 1 to 10, crazy, we'd always have at least a 6. This was a 50.
A lot of drinking.
It was food fights, and it was so crazy.
I remember Frank Cashen telling me that we owed $5,000 in damage to the plane.
They were going to charge us to fix the plane, like 30 grand or something like that.
I'm quite sure it was like over 100 grand.
Davey came down and ripped up the letter.
I told the guys, I said, I'll pay it. You deserved it, I'll pay it. But that's how we win in the World Series.
Flying high into their third ever World Series, New Yorkers were predictably excited as their beloved Mets represented the Big Apple against Boston's Red Sox. New York's star power was in high gear, but unfortunately the Mets were not.
Ground ball to second. Teufel has it go between his legs.
Game 1, we lost by the score of 1-0 on an error. They pretty much beat us up in Game 2.
And Dwight Gooden is not good enough tonight. It is 6-2 Boston.
That 16-inning game in the Astrodome took so much out of us that it took me until I got to Fenway Park to even realize that I was in the World Series. I was just that exhausted.
Remember the back page of the New York Post was Meet the Mutts. Wow, that's a tough headline. Here the National League champions had come back in such dramatic fashion to beat the Astros, and now they're being called Mutts.
So it was off to Fenway, where the Mets knew a change in venue would result in a change in the outcomes.
I told my wife I had to do something in that first at bat, that first inning.
Leading off for the bat, number 4, Lenny Dykstra, center fielder.
And that's one of the few times that I actually tried to hit a ball out of the ballpark.
High drive down the right field line, hooking in the corner. It's gone. And the Mets lead 1-0.
That got us going. That just jump-started us.
A 7-1 win in Game 3 would be followed by Kid Carter's toying with Fenway's Green Monster in Game 4.
Fastball. High drive into left field. Rice is looking up. She is gone. And he's hit another one. A towering smash. Rice never even moved.
Carter's big game drew the Mets even at 2 games apiece. But Bruce Hurst beat the Mets 4-2 in Game 5, placing the Amazins on the brink.
That team always took us to the edge as fans, but they just had some sense that they weren't going to let us down.
The series returned to New York for Game 6. With their team facing elimination, the Shea Stadium faithful were not discouraged. One fan in particular did his best to jumpstart an unforgettable night.
When I saw them up in Boston release all the balloons with the Go Sox sign on it, and I said to myself, if they can do that in Boston, watch and see what we do in New York.
Boy, this crowd came here to make some noise tonight.
I'm at first base looking at home plate, and I see out of the corner of my eye something that you don't normally see on a baseball field.
An unexpected guest at Shea Stadium.
Only in New York. It was kind of neat, but very unusual.
I landed, and 2 security guards came out, and they took me by either arm. Going down into the dugout, Ron Darling was sitting there, and he gave me a high five. I thought that was great.
With all the things that had happened in this team, why not? Let's have a parachutist, you know?
The enthusiastic crowd was tempered by Boston's quick start. The Red Sox tallied a pair of runs for an early 2-0 lead. Boston's ace, Roger Clemens, looked strong.
Got him.
But in the 5th inning, the Mets rallied to tie the game. After falling behind 3-2, the Amazins would have to manufacture yet another run in the 8th.
Tagging up is Mazzilli to score. It's a brand new ball game.
It was the 9th inning coming in, tie ball game, and got through that inning without any problems. Go out for the 10th inning, somewhere in the first couple of pitches, home run to Dave Henderson.
And a drive to left. Going back on it is Mookie Wilson, and this one is gone.
I was in right field when Henderson hit that home run. You know, just to see that ball going over the fence. It's almost like they kind of just sucked the air right out of you. I mean, it was like your dream seemed like it was disappearing.
And it
The Red Sox would then add an insurance run, another devastating blow to the Mets' chances.
I'm sitting in a police station, and I'm watching the game on TV. The sergeant and all the police are coming in, I'm signing autographs. But listen, it looked like they were going to lose that game.
There's this wonderful clip of Davey in the dugout, clopping down and hitting his back against the wall, and the exasperation on his face. I don't think he said it's over, but he didn't expect to win.
And that's hit to dead center with Henderson going to run it down.
You know, you win 108 games and you come out and lose again. It's a disappointing season.
And the Mets are down to their last out.
I just didn't want to see them have fun on our field, so I just went up to the clubhouse.
I was sitting on the bench next to Howard Johnson, and I said, Hojo, I can't believe that we're going to lose.
This is not the way it's supposed to end.
The TV network had also set up the platform with the World Series trophy, and there was going to be the presentation and the whole 9 yards.
I can remember looking up at the scoreboard. It flashed, "Congratulations, Boston Red Sox, 1986 World Champions."
My wife said to me, let's go home. And I remember saying, you always still want to see the last out of the World Series, and you never know.
Lined into left field, base hit for Carter, and the Mets are still alive.
There was a lot of guys that didn't want to be a trivia question. They didn't want to be the last out of the '86 World Series.
Kevin Mitchell was making plane reservations to get home to San Diego.
And he runs down and gets a base hit.
Curveball, and that's going to be hit to center, base hit.
I was watching on TV with Darryl Johnson in Davey's office. I was sitting down in one of the chairs. We're 1 out away from losing. So I said, I'm not getting out of this chair. This chair's got hits in it.
And that's going to be hit into center field, base hit. Here comes Carter to score, and the tying run is at third in Kevin Mitchell.
When I crossed home plate and Mookie was on the on-deck circle, I then pointed to him and I said, "Okay, Mook, now it's you."
And he's going to the bullpen. He wants Bob Stanley to pitch to Mookie Wilson.
They could have brought in Walter Johnson. They could have brought in Christy Matheson. It wasn't going to matter who Boston brought in. The Mets were going to win this baseball game.
First thing is give yourself a chance, put the ball in play.
Fouled on.
I remember Mookie having a good at-bat.
Fouled away again.
Him to go 10 or 11 pitches was unusual.
I just felt that in one way or another, Mookie was going to come through.
And it's going to go to the backstop.
Mookie Wilson practically threw his body up in the air to avoid getting hit.
Here comes Mitchell to score the tying run, and Ray Knight is at second base.
I just was so excited. I'm waving like a kid. I'm waving and beating the ground, slide, slide, slide.
When that wild pitch almost hit Mookie and the tying run scored, it was over.
Destiny.
That was the game right there. No doubt in anybody's mind in a Met uniform.
At that point, I think all the pressure went over to the Red Sox.
It had been 68 years since the Red Sox won their last World Series. According to the legend, the curse of the Bambino caused their misfortune. Even the most veteran of players suffered haunting premonitions.
The dreams are that you're going to have a great series and win, and the nightmares are that you're going to let the winning run score on a ground ball through your legs. So, you know, those things happen, you know, and just I think a lot of it is just fate.
3-2 to Mookie Wilson. Little roller up along first.
When Mookie hit the ball, I knew it was going to be a foot race.
It's a slow roller, so I'm thinking I got a chance of beating it out, so I'm running hard, running hard.
Buckner, he had a problem there, you know, trying to get the ball and beat Mookie Wilson.
That little hesitation that Buckner had by looking up to see where Stanley was is what caused him to miss the ball.
Behind the bag, it gets through Buckner.
I broke to third, and I heard Buddy Harrelson say something. It was more of a shriek, you know, and I looked over my shoulder and saw the ball going to right field.
Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
A miracle was taking place in front of me, and I'm thinking, this is history.
We were a strike away from winning that World Series 3 times.
We had 2 strikes, 2 outs, 3 times, and couldn't shut the door.
People are like, oh, kissing each other, going insane. For that moment in time, we were all in love with each other. And then you were back to, who are you?
I was underneath the stadium, and the stadium was like Madison Square Garden in a rock concert. It was like it was going to cave in.
Shea Stadium was literally going up and down. And when they say a stadium rocks, this was the ultimate situation.
Fans were jumping so hard on the cement that dust was coming through the ceiling.
Here you had karma, and here you had this supernatural thing happening, and it was just the greatest feeling in the world.
God was a Mets fan. There is no doubt about it.
You had to feel for Buckner, but not at that particular moment. You were really happy that he missed it.
Shoot, that's about as close as you can come to losing. 2 outs, nobody on, down 2 runs.
It was the biggest swing of emotions I've ever experienced.
What happened there showed the people the old saying of baseball is so true. It's never over till it's over.
That was the most unbelievable finish. I mean, to be down like that, just to witness it. If I was a fan, you couldn't ask for a better scenario.
Just the way we won it, in that fashion, thinking, wow, I can't believe we won that game. We're going to Game 7.
We had to win it. Game 6 would mean nothing if we didn't win Game 7.
We knew we were going to win just by showing up.
This series is over. I don't care who you are. The 27 Yankees aren't recovering from that.
I remember thinking after Game 6, there's no way they're going to lose.
I think I remember Keith saying they will not beat us Game 7.
On the other hand, they fall behind 3-0 again, right away.
There were a couple of Red Sox fans sitting in the box next to us, and when it was 3-0, someone tapped them on the shoulder and said, "You guys are looking pretty good." And they looked grim and they said, "No, it's not going to happen." And I think everyone felt that way.
But it was an unsung relief appearance by Sid Hernandez that really shut down the Red Sox and helped set the stage for yet another stirring comeback.
We're down 3-0, and we have the bases loaded. And who comes up? By far my favorite player on that team, Keith Hernandez.
Sacrifice fly wasn't going to do any good. We needed a base hit.
And I know Keith's getting a hit.
Fastball hit into left center field, base hit. In comes Mazzilli. In comes Wilson. 3-2 Boston.
Here I am, standing on my seat, yelling out towards Hernandez, who's at first base, "You are an animal! You are an animal!"
After the Mets tied the game at 3, Series MVP Ray Knight delivered another dramatic blow.
Now the windup in the delivery, swung on, hit in the air, fairly deep to left field, going back near the wall, looking up, goodbye! Home run, Ray Knight! The Mets lead 4-3!
It was the trademark of that team. You couldn't beat them, or they wouldn't let you beat them.
At that point, once we got the lead on him, it was over. Straw hit one later.
High drive into deep right field. Evans back at the wall, gone!
After Darryl Strawberry's home run, we tacked on one more to make it 8-5, and then we just put it in the hands of Jesse Orosco.
He struck him out! Struck him out! The Mets have won the World Series! And they're jamming and crowding all over Jesse Orosco. The dream has come true.
I raised my hands in the air and I just said, God, we just won. I mean, we're the world champions.
A strange feeling to me because we had to be World Series champions. Anything less than that was unacceptable for that team. So it was, wow, thank God.
And so began a celebration the city of New York would never forget.
This is the rally.
I told you.
He said it. And tomorrow we're having the ticket tape parade.
Police say more than 2 million people jammed into lower Manhattan to cheer the Mets.
Not only the outpouring of joy, but it was an outpouring of love.
There was a 12-foot fence. The fans lifted Bobby O'Hare and myself up and put us over. And people on the other side, they carried us over the spikes. We were like laying out flat. And they carried us over to where the cars were so we can get it. We just got there around 10 minutes before they were ready to go down.
That was once in a lifetime experience, and I tell you what, don't trade those moments for anything.
It was my rookie year, winning the World Series in New York. Just doesn't get any better than that.
As you can see, I have saved the Daily News and the New York Post from that period when they won the World Series. They're in pretty good condition. You can touch it, but you can't have it.
I get goosebumps thinking about it. It was just overwhelming. Mets town, USA, you know, it was just awesome.
The Mets made of the city of New York a small town with love and affection where everybody in this city knows one another.
This team took New York over. 96 Yankees, 94 Rangers, 91 Giants. There's something about this team that really took this city over.
To see New York just go crazy over us, I think the fans really felt a closeness to us, and we to them. It was just incredible.
I love having these papers. I keep them around. I read the stories every now and then, and it's a wonderful memory. And I love the way old newsprint smells.